Hey everybody, welcome to my garden. I was just sitting here practicing some mindfulness, and I thought it would be a good time to take you around and show you what's going on in my garden, what's starting to bloom now that it is the end of summer going into fall, show you what still looks good. And just kind of take some time to observe and slow down and practice some mindful garden observations. One thing I've noticed this morning is that the bees and the birds are very active right now. When we walk around, I'll show you what the bees are interested in right now. And the birds are really enjoying eating the dried seed heads on the flowers that are bloomed out. So I will show you those as well. Please ignore the mess. We are working on repairing part of our roof and the porch overhang, so we have a lot of construction materials and stuff laying around, so ignore that if you can. But let's go around and take a look at what's going on. These are the dried up black-eyed Susans. You can see they have these nice little seed heads, and the goldfinches really like these. I'm going to leave them up. I'm not going to cut them back this fall because they stand up pretty straight even in the winter, so they add some winter interest, and it's food for the birds through fall and winter. So I do plan on leaving those. I noticed that the salvia still looks really good. This is an annual variety. I'm not sure what the name is, but these things have been blooming since I planted them in the spring. You can see that the bees are really enjoying these. And they've looked great, and they're still going. So I wish I knew the name of them when I purchased them from the nursery. They didn't have a name on the tag, it was just labeled salvia. So I wish I knew the variety so that I could make sure to purchase the same ones every year. They're a nice dark velvety purple, almost blue. When you look at them from far away, they look blue to me. I like those a lot. A recent plant that's come into bloom are the autumn joy sedums. These are looking amazing, and I go on and on about these every year because they are super tough. They're so pretty in the fall. It's just nice to have this pop of color in the fall. And they are covered in bees, bumblebees, honeybees. These seem to be a really good source of, I'm assuming, nectar, because I don't see much pollen on these. And I think that's why the bees might be so interested in them. So if you're looking for a super tough perennial that blooms in the fall and helps out the pollinators, I highly recommend. I also leave a lot of these up over the winter because they do a pretty good job of standing upright even in the snow. It's really amazing to me how many bees swarm these things every year. I also have some native asters that are just starting to bloom a little bit, but we have a lot of buds that are getting ready. There's another sedum. They also smell really nice. They're very sweet smelling. So it's kind of a good all-around sensory plant to have in your garden because they smell good. They have an interesting texture because they're a sedum. Their leaves are similar to succulent leaves. This one actually looks like it needs to be divided. Once it starts to sort of split in the middle and fall away from the middle, that's a good indication that it's gotten a little too big. They're super easy to divide. All you do is get in there with a shovel, split it in half, and replant the pieces wherever you'd like. I did plant some new grasses. I'm thinking for this area. This area is just kind of a hodgepodge of some different plants. It was like that when we moved in. This is a very dry, sunny spot, and it tends to need a lot of weeding. So my thought is this would be a really nice spot for some ornamental grasses to kind of fill up space, crowd out some of the weeds, and I wouldn't have to worry about watering because grasses tend to like pretty dry conditions. So I was at Lowe's last weekend, and they happened to have some grasses on clearance. I love clearance plants. So these are maidenhair grass, and this variety is called Morning Light, I believe. So they have these really nice variegated leaves. I don't know if you can tell, there's almost a white strip down the middle, so that when you're looking at it from afar and it's moving in the wind, it sort of looks like it's shimmering a little bit. So these get pretty big. I think the tag said 4 to 5 or 6 feet tall and wide. And then they bloom in the fall, and they get these really nice pinkish, feathery looking blooms. I don't know if I will get that this year because I just planted them. I don't know if they'll have enough time to develop anything. But fall's a good time to plant perennials. So I figured I'd pop them in and have something nice to look at back here and hopefully start to crowd out some weeds. So I think I'm gonna add more grasses too to this area. There were, I think at one time this area was more shaded because there are a lot of shade plants over here. We have a lot of hostas. There was some heuchera over here. So I'm wondering if before we moved in, this area had more shade. Maybe there was a tree over here. I don't know. But now this stuff is getting kind of sun scorched. You can see the hosta has brown leaves. So I think this spot is going to transition into a sunny, dry plant spot. Which is part of gardening, and I think it's one of the fun parts of gardening is things are sort of always in transition, and you're never really done planning your garden. Things change, and then you can get creative and try something new. Okay, so we have a lot of sedum, as you can see. I also wanted to show you the goldenrod is starting to bloom. This is another really good fall blooming perennial that's tough and really beneficial for pollinators. So this is a shorter, bushier variety. I don't have the name on this one. I have another one in my front bed I'll show you so you can see the difference, because goldenrod comes in all sorts of shapes and sizes. So I'm actually going to pause and I'm going to pop up to my front garden and show you a couple of other plants. Okay, so this is Goldenrod Fireworks. You can see that it is much taller. The other one is probably 2 to 3 feet tall. This one is, I would say 4 feet, 4.5 feet tall. And you can see how this is more of a spray of blooms, and they start blooming from the tip inward. Goldenrods also like full sun, and they can take some pretty dry conditions. I'm also going to be leaving up the coneflowers. I don't cut these back in the fall because the goldfinches and other birds really like to eat the seeds on these too. And again, it provides some winter interest. I have another aster, and these are, they're getting close. Not quite there yet. A couple more weeks. Or maybe 1 week. They look close. So one thing I like to do when I am practicing mindfulness in the garden is sit and watch the birds. I don't know if you can hear them. They've been really active this morning. And it's still pretty hot. It's gonna be 90 degrees today and 90 degrees tomorrow. But I've seen a lot more birds out here eating seed heads off of the flowers. I have some more sedum up here. This is a smaller variety. This one's called Turkish Delight. I think I pointed it out in my last video, but it wasn't quite blooming yet. I really like the color of the leaves on this one. So I know this was a short video. I just wanted to show you a couple of things that had come into bloom for me. Feel free to share in the comments what you have blooming in your garden. I'm also always looking for suggestions, so if you have any perennials that would do well in a zone 5 that you really love, let me know down below, because I'm always looking for new things to try. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to ask those. I do try to respond to comments. Otherwise, I hope this video inspires you to get out and just observe what's going on in your garden or green space today.